first, live, local. This is Fox 12 Now.
Hello everyone, this is Fox 12 Now. I'm Greg Nibbler. As always, we appreciate you joining us. We are live streaming here out of the Fox 12 Oregon newsroom, as we do every weekday, starting at 1 p.m., going throughout the afternoon. And we are on our Fox 12 YouTube channel. We're at kptv.com, and of course, on the Fox 12 Oregon apps, which you can download on pretty much any device and watch all the shows, and then, of course, watch those segments afterward as well. This next one, though, is an interview that I got to have, which was sitting down with Ani DiFranco. So she is a Grammy Award winner. She's been famous for a very long time, a very accomplished musician, very independent, started her own label at a young age, and has a documentary out called 1-800 on Her Own, which is going to be at the Tomorrow Theater on November 1st. The Tomorrow Theater being part of the Portland Art Museum. And so everyone can go take a look there. She will actually be there, but we were lucky enough to get a chance to sit down and talk with her for a while, just about her career, about the documentary, and about, well, a lot of things really. So let's just get right to it. Here it is, Ani DiFranco on Fox 12 Now. First off, Ani, thank you so much for joining us here today. Really, really appreciate your time and being here and just talking to you and about your career. And, you know, for this documentary that's going to be at the Tomorrow Theater on November 1st, there's a lot to talk about with that. But to start off, you know, just even before we get into what it's about, I was wondering, you know, for you, how did this come about? What was it about this theme and about exploring your career with this documentary that made you want to go like, okay, yeah, let's put this all on film and put this out there for people to see?
Yeah, well, I was really reticent at the idea of a documentary for all the reasons you can imagine. You know, letting somebody with a camera into my life.
Right.
I saw a couple of previous films that Dana Floor, the filmmaker, had made, one called Check It, one called The 9 Lives of Marion Barry, and really cool films. And I just thought, okay, this is a woman on a mission. There was something about her filmmaking that I related to. And then, so I agreed to meet her. And, you know, as soon as we met, we just sort of really related to each other, kind of fell in love. I felt like I can trust this person. And so that's what I did. I just surrendered.
Yeah, I mean, was it strange at first? I mean, obviously you're used to being in front of a camera, you're used to performing in front of people, but I mean, this is going into some of your personal life too, and some of that behind the scenes stuff. Was it odd at first to be able to let your guard down, or was that just something that was very natural and comfortable for you?
No, it was hard. It was hard. I don't know if I'm used to being in front of a camera. Cameras, even after 30 years of being a public, you know, performer, cameras still wig me out. I guess I'm used to being on stage, live in a moment, you know, and there's something about, you know, performing on stage, moments come and moments go, and there's a freedom in that, you know, whereas a camera, you know, is documenting things for scrutiny, you know, beyond what you could even imagine, or, you know, so it's much more intimidating, and it was hard to, especially.
Oop, I think we froze up just for a second there. Maybe still frozen.
I like to be very private. So that changed that game. You know, I was off stage and still being seen, you know, so it was a lot to get used to, but I just decided, like I do, you know, to just go for it. Just stop thinking about it. Don't worry about it. Just surrender and just ignore the thing in Dana's hands. You know?
Well, I mean, that's kind of a theme of a lot of your life, just going for it and doing it. I mean, and going back to that, you know, starting, you know, you mentioned 30 years ago, but starting the record label and going through that and being, you know, really a pioneer in all of that, you know, to that point, you know, back then, what do you think that you've learned over the last 30 years that you would do differently, or is it still exactly how you would have done it starting that label? Oh, I think we froze up. I'm not sure if you can hear me. Ani, it's you're frozen on this end. I'm not sure if you can hear me.
If there's anything that this Ani, this middle-aged Ani would say to the young pup that was out there, you know, hopping around and becoming herself. I would say take more time, slow down. If the thing I guess I wish I'd done differently the most is just to step back more, not keep going on tour and keep getting on stage when my tank was empty, or I didn't have anything to give, or it was too much of a struggle. I was going through too much. And, I think that I didn't step back and refuel myself and regain a sense of myself. So I did a lot of floundering in public. And that's what I regret the most.
Yeah, just taking some moments maybe for yourself instead of pushing through all that with that, the relentless drive to be out there and touring and doing all of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even about your own drive. It's about the pressures that come at you. There's a big team, and there's a lot of voices saying, come on, get out there, get out there, get out there. Don't lose the momentum, or blah, 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 or blah, so you succumb to those pressures, and you don't do your most effective work.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can only imagine what that is like to be at that level and, at that age as well, and just having all of that happen and how to handle that. I mean, that's difficult for so many artists, for so many people who are going through something like that, and for you as well. But, one of the things that you did even throughout that is your connection that you have with your audience is something that I think is really remarkable and pretty rare when it comes to any kind of artist, any genre, but for you too. I mean, for you, how does it feel to have that connection still? Some people have been with you for the entire run of your career. Some people are newer, but they all find something in your music that they connect with. What do you think that is that speaks so much to them?
I think it's different for each person, which is the beauty of it. My audience is not a monolith, they're all individuals. And I think there's something resonating between us. And, I'm privileged to a lot of their stories or letters, words of gratitude, or, as we've been out here with the film in the Midwest, I've been doing meet and greets and Q&As afterwards. So I've been a lot of one-on-one with people, and it's been pretty mind-blowing just hearing how intimately I've been accompanying people and what that meant. And I love those stories that I'm gifted with of knowing where my songs went in this world and how they entered into somebody else's story, and how it lifted them or what it meant, or, so that's a real, I feel like I've always said that's sort of my salary, to know that this, all the labor and all the struggle that I've been through to do this work, that's like, to know that it's made that difference for that person and that person and that person. It's that's what gives me the energy and the will to keep going.
I was just talking to my friend Sarah. She was talking about how her and her sister, they're 14, 16, listening to you, and just how much it meant to them then and still now, a few years later, just how much of an impact you had. And there's those kinds of stories all over the place. So I think that's really interesting that you're getting to hear some of those, firsthand out there with this documentary.
Yeah. Just knowing that you unlocked somebody to themselves is my favorite thing to know.
I mean, what more could you want with music and performing? And to that extent, looking at the music industry now, going back from, again, I keep kind of doing that span, but I mean, it's crossed a lot of different genres and a lot of huge changes just in the world of music. Have you seen any change, though, when it comes down to folk music and communicating to people? Are there big changes that you've noticed that you recognize now compared to maybe before?
Well, I mean, I think folk music is diversifying, which is wonderful, in all things. And, I mean, gender and, color and, culture, just there's different, it's more diverse. And also it's getting younger, which was sorely needed. When I was coming up on the folk scene, it was me and a bunch of old codgers, a bunch of old wobbly lefty, white dudes in overalls, and I loved them, and they taught me everything I know. But it was sort of a radical shift that I was maybe a harbinger of, when I showed up looking very different and sounding very different. Some were very hesitant to let me into the club, and others were very welcoming. They were like, oh, finally, new blood,
Yeah, and seeing some of that happen now too is definitely interesting, and having that diversification of a lot of different genres, but folk music as well. Well, you did mention the old white dudes in overalls, but you also have a lot of collaborations with a lot of different people over the years. And one question I just had, along those lines, is there anybody out there, or do you have people in mind that you still would like to collaborate with that you haven't, or is it more just see it as it comes, and when that happens, it happens?
I mean, I think see it as it comes, and if it happens, it happens. There are people that that really float my boat, and if I could just call them on the phone and say, let's make a record together, but it's not like that, so for me it's and even sort of doing that, I've always been hesitant to sort of reach out of my organic life experience and sphere and say, hey, team of professionals, or hey, I just sort of like doing it organically with the people that I encounter organically. So that's more the vibe.
Well, I mean, and to that extent, organically too, you on stage, as you mentioned, that's where you feel so comfortable, and then that is organic, I would imagine, for you, is to be on stage and to be communicating with people. I would think anyway, correct me if I'm wrong, but what is it that still draws you to that, to this day, and still going out there and seeing people and being in front of them and telling your stories? What still draws you to that?
Connection, human connection. I mean, there's those moments in a show when there's sort of all of our breathing becomes one breath, where it's almost like it's almost visible, feeling it go out and roll back in, and the way we all move with the music together, and move with the breath together, and tapping into the sort of BPM of the room, and that all of that I just love. It's so, I think it's actually an essential part of being human, that many of us are denied, in our isolated jobs and lives. And so, yeah, group singing, it's the neuroscientists have determined it really does heal.
Yeah, that live music experience, there's nothing quite like that, being with a crowd. Oh yeah, kind of going along the same line. For the documentary, going to this, you're going to be bringing it here for everybody who knows now, November 1st at the Tomorrow Theater here in Portland. And I want to talk a little bit more about that, but just, since we are here in Portland, in the Northwest, do you have any fond memories or times of being here and performing for the crowds here in Portland?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Plenty. Whenever I have a minute in Portland, I'm always going to Powell's Books, or, drinking way too much coffee and, all the things, walking around, just taking in as much oxygen as I can from all them trees. It's a beautiful town you got there.
Yeah. And that's all still here, waiting for you. Well, going to November 1st, Tomorrow Theater, which is amazing. It's really, really incredible. I don't know if you've been there yet. It's fairly new, but it's a pretty amazing spot where this is going to be. But for people who are walking in to see this documentary, What should they expect walking in, and what would you like them to take away from it?
Well, I mean, the reason that I said yes to Dana Floor doing this film is because I knew she wasn't going to make one of those laudatory talking heads saying why Ani's important or why you should think so, or, and it's not that, it's just a real intimate kind of traveling with me. And I've heard a lot from people who have seen the film that though they felt, of course, like they know me through my songs, and they do in a sense, this was unexpected. This was even deeper kind of letting in. And I've also heard from people that they felt inspired and that they felt less alone, like my struggles in trying to give myself to my work and my passion, and also my kids and my family, my partner and my society, and juggling that impossible math equation of giving 100% everywhere, is something that a lot of people can relate to. It's not just me in that position. So I've really enjoyed that. I guess I don't want to say what I think people should come out of this, but I've been hearing a lot of that people can just relate, which pleases me.
Yeah, that's a great thing to come away with. Well, I have two more questions. One is, I forgot to ask, how did you come up with the name for this?
Oh, well, it is literally the phone number of my record company. It has been since 1990. It still is. You can call that actual number and talk to Bubba.
That's awesome. Okay, final question is, for younger artists that are out there, we talked about it a little bit earlier, but younger artists and folk music and maybe just all kinds of genres, what recommendation or what would you recommend they do, or do you have any advice for them as they're maybe starting out in their careers, maybe very early, not playing in front of crowds yet, or something like that? What advice would you have to somebody who's following their passion with music?
I guess I would say, along the way, I've been asked a lot by younger people, how do I get there? How do I get to the next level? Everybody, that's the elusive thing, people envision themselves somewhere, and where's the rungs of that ladder? How do I get up there? And I guess my advice would be, it's not about up there. It's about right here. It's about right here. And I do strongly believe that was my greatest blessing. And like one of my superpowers along the way was that I was really thrilled to play even in bars in front of handfuls of people. I found that thrilling, and I loved my job and my life and the journey every step. And I was just really fully in it. And that, I think, is going to be the best way to wherever there is in your career.
That's fantastic advice. Well, Ani, thank you very much, for having some time to talk to us. Congratulations on everything, and obviously this documentary and everything that went into it, and getting now to go out and show it to people, and people here in Portland can see it on November 1st, and other places as well on the tour of it. And we just appreciate so much, you having time to talk to us and to talk to me. And thank you so much.
Appreciate your time too. Thanks.
All right. Again, I know I said it right there, but thank you to Ani DiFranco for joining us for that. Also, just a word there about the interview. You may have noticed those pauses in Zoom. I meant to explain that at the beginning. I decided not to cut that out because she was in the middle of her conversation. Didn't last too long, and so I figured we'd just let that be picked up right where she wanted it to be. So that's why I left those in there. But again, this is Fox 12 Now, and we live stream here every weekday starting at 1. So we cover a wide range of topics. You can check them all out at those places I mentioned at the beginning, which is the Fox 12 Oregon YouTube channel, KPTV.com, and then, of course, the Fox 12 Oregon apps. And feel free to send me an email as well, fox12now@kptv.com. That's fox12now@kptv.com if you have a suggestion for a topic. Ani DiFranco, will be at the Tomorrow Theater on November 1st. Thanks for joining us. I will talk to you soon. I'm Greg Nibbler. This is Fox 12 Now.